What up guys, Miguel here of YugaTech, and remember OnePlus? The company that introduced the concept of flagship killer with their flagship spec smartphones sold at a much more affordable price. This year, the company released two variants for their smartphone lineup and everyone's eyes were drawn to the beastly OnePlus 7 Pro. This full review isn't about that Pro model though, instead it's about the true flagship killer for their lineup this year, the standard OnePlus 7. Starting off with design. At first glance, some might mistake the standard OnePlus 7 with the OnePlus 6T. Unlike the Pro model, we get a dewdrop notch on the display of this standard model. We lose the curved edges as well. Though, that isn't a loss in my perspective, as sometimes having curved edges on your display can make it a bit more challenging to grip and can lead to accidental touches. Move to the rear of the phone and that's where we do get some curved edges, allowing users to earn the perfect grip to this device. Also placed here is the main camera module stacked vertically in the upper center portion of the back. For glass protection, the OnePlus 7 gets Gorilla Glass 6 in front and Gorilla Glass 5 for the back. For I/O, on the left side you can find the volume rocker and dual SIM card tray. Residing on top is a noise cancelling mic for speakerphone. On the right side you can find that nifty alert slider as well as the power button. Lastly, at the bottom we get two speaker grills, one that houses the mic for regular calls, the other is the actual second mono speaker, and a USB Type-C port. Overall for design, the OnePlus 7 is great. It looks and feels premium, and with the right care, this device can last you a really long time. If I had one complaint in terms of design, it would be the back. I would have preferred maybe an aluminum unibody construction instead. I mean, since we don't get wireless charging on this device, I don't really see why we need a glass back in the first place. Nonetheless, it's a good looking phone. The OnePlus 7 gets a 6.41-inch optic AMOLED panel with a resolution of 2340 by 1080. Another thing this standard model doesn't get is that 90Hz refresh rate the Pro model has. Did I find it to be a big deal? Definitely not. I mean, yes, it's nice to see everything move a lot smoother, but again, it really isn't a necessity for me. The OnePlus 7 has a really nice display. Like most AMOLED panels, blacks are deep and colors can pop as long as you keep that display mode set to vivid. I'm also happy to report that viewing stuff on this device under direct sunlight was no slouch for this phone at all. Consuming media on this display is also really great. If you wanted some extra pop when watching videos, you can also turn on the video enhancer feature in the display settings. For sound, a welcome upgrade is of course those onboard stereo speakers. Utilizing the speaker on the top bezel for the highs and the downward firing ones for the lows, separation is great, and having two speakers gives us a more full soundstage. They aren't the loudest nor the best stereo speakers from a phone I've used, but they're definitely better than most. For hardware, the OnePlus 7 gets the Qualcomm Snapdragon 855 7nm chipset, which means you get an Adreno 640 GPU on this guy. For configurations, locally on our shores, we officially get the higher spec 8GB of RAM and 256GB of internal storage. Although it is worth mentioning that there is a 6GB of RAM plus 128GB of internal storage variant for this device too. So yeah, before I forget to mention, no, you don't get expandable storage on this device. From messaging friends and family, downloading and uploading files, to just basically watching videos on the phone all day, and even gaming. It handles all these things with ease. But if you're interested in the benchmark scores, get ready to pause the video because I'll have them flash on screen now. Moving to software, you get Android 9 Pie out of the box skin with Oxygen OS 9 on top. And truth be told, I love Oxygen OS. It's simple and highly customizable, and it's also grown up over the years. If Samsung's One UI is eye candy for me right now, Oxygen OS is literal practicality. For biometrics, you can get an optical in-display fingerprint scanner here that's pretty quick for in-display scanner standards of, well, now and this year. As well as optical face unlock that works really fast on this OnePlus 7. I guess that's the advantage of not having a pop-up camera. Providing juice to the OnePlus 7 is a substantial 3700 mAh battery that supports OnePlus's very own 20-watt dash charge technology. I would have wanted warp charge on this guy though. I mean, the McLaren 6T got it, the 7 Pro got it, why didn't the standard 7? Although, either way, dash charge is still one of the fastest charging standards available today. With the PCMark battery test, our OnePlus 7 scored 9 hours and 43 minutes. In our standard video loop test, which entails the device being at 50% brightness and volume, airplane mode turned on, the device yielded 10 hours and 13 minutes. Now, these aren't the best scores we've seen from a battery of this milliamp hour capacity, but it's not that bad, and if you take into account dash charge, if you always have an outlet with you and you have the brick, well, charging this guy up can be done in a jiffy. When it comes to optics, the OnePlus 7 gets a dual camera setup consisting of a 48 megapixel main shooter and a 5 megapixel depth sensor. Residing in the dewdrop notch in front is a 16 megapixel selfie shooter. Now, my only thoughts here is that I wish the secondary camera was a more useful ultra-wide instead, as having a secondary lens just for depth information might be a little hit or miss, especially if you're not always taking portrait mode photos all the time. Checking out some samples now. Here we have the girls tired from an all-nighter. Right from the get-go, I noticed some noise in the shadows, and it's most likely more evident due to the way the phone handles its sharpening and post-processing. But besides that, it can seem a bit oversaturated at first glance, but really, it's actually a quite natural-looking palette. This shot is taken on the default mode, and it's nice to see some blur from the background already due to the main sensor's low aperture. If we zoom into the Coca-Cola Beetle, you can see the details are very well preserved. In this next shot, as you can see, it's been raining a lot recently, so excuse us if some of our images feel a little bit dull. I mean, that's the weather. Now, again, I really like the way the OnePlus 7 processes colors right off the app. I like how preserved the fallen leaves are, and again, due to the weather, it may not be so noticeable at first, but dynamic range seems to be really good here too. In this shot, again, I want to highlight how great this camera preserves details. If we zoom into the little statues in the center, you can see some great detail from the wall and even the painting. Checking out portrait mode now, this image is taken in the default photo mode. As you can see, we have some harsh backlighting here. This shot's in portrait mode, and honestly, it did a pretty good job. Subject background separation isn't perfect with the hair, but if we put the harsh backlight into consideration, it fared very well. It also lowered the overexposure from the sky too, giving us a more balanced image. In this next shot, we have a more challenging scene. This is again in the default photo mode. This is in portrait mode. Again, in regards to subject background separation, it does a pretty nice job, but it isn't perfect. The box on the floor in the background, as well as part of the chair on the right, weren't blurred out like they should be. For night mode, a bicycle is the subject here, and this shot was taken in the default photo mode for reference. This is night mode, or nightscape is what OnePlus calls it. Clearly, the image was brightened, and we get a little bit more detail here too. Here's another set. This is the reference photo. The lights in the background are overexposed, and we can barely see the front of the car. In night mode, these issues are resolved. Details aren't as well preserved as when lighting conditions are more optimal, but you do get right about enough. Brushing through selfies real quick, as you can see, image quality here is decent. If this was shot in the day, you'd most likely get better results, but here, highlights seem to be a bit overexposed. This is what the shot looks like on the front-facing portrait mode. We get some pretty good subject background separation here, but again, it isn't perfect, most noticeably in my hair. For video, you can shoot on a resolution of up to 4K at 30 or 60 frames per second on this guy, and it looks pretty good. It can feel a little bit over-sharpened, but again, not that bad.
Now, before we conclude this review, we gotta talk about price. The standard OnePlus 7 is available now in Digital Walker for 26,990 pesos. Purchasing this device from them gives you a few installment plans as well as an 18-month warranty. This is again for the 8 gigs of RAM plus 256 gigs of internal storage variant, and it's available in this red color like our unit here, or in this mirror gray. So do I recommend the standard OnePlus 7? Well, it's a definite yes for me. You get a very capable chipset, a very intuitive UI, a great display, above average onboard stereo system, and a pretty good set of cameras. So yeah, you probably get better cameras on the Pro model, but it's probably not for everybody, because at the end of the day, that Pro model, that OnePlus 7 Pro, is actually more of a flagship entry instead of a flagship killer coming from OnePlus. And that's why I think the OnePlus 7 is the true hero phone of the lineup. So, what do you guys think of the standard OnePlus 7 non-Pro? Let us know in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this video or found it helpful, be sure to smack that like button. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit that bell icon so you get notified of future uploads. Be sure to visit YugaTech.com for the latest tech news and reviews. Again, this has been Miguel, and I'll see ya in the next one.